Have your Facebook memories ever popped up and given you a little bit of an aha moment? Well, that happened to me recently, and I was on the treadmill having like one of the best runs that I've had in a while. And my creative mind was just going, and I kind of created this podcast episode in my mind. And I'm holding myself accountable to actually making this podcast happen, even though it's going to be a little bit of a blast to the past. But I hope that it will normalize some of you out there that share my obsession with self-development and ambition and this inner knowing that we were put on the planet for something big, something more. And yeah, I had a Facebook memory pop up about this kind of ambitious or this way of being that has always been inside me. So if you're up for a journey of going down memory lane with me today, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome back to the Messy Success Podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth Henson, and I help high-performing artists and creative leaders grow and scale communities so that marketing is easy. This podcast combines business tips and real-life experiences in being the creative entrepreneur that we all are. So you're in the right place if you want to leave feeling a little bit more confident and normalize these day-to-day struggles that we all experience as business owners. And you can do this while mastering your marketing so that business is light and easy. I'm so glad you're joining me here where we can get a little bit messy, a little bit creative, and it's okay to be super ambitious. Let's get started. All right, this is going to be a juicy one, but before we get started, friendly reminder, this is episode 132, so you can find the show notes at elizabethhenson.co/E132. And don't forget, I am offering free marketing power calls. That is a 30-minute one-to-one call. You, me, talking about your business and your marketing goals and dreams and aspirations, and really digging into a marketing power plan and exploring how you might be able to grow and have community-based marketing so that marketing is easy, right? So today we're going to be a little bit off topic of marketing, but this is all really important, right? I think the more that we understand ourselves and why we are the way we are and what we're here to do, the better marketing we're going to have, because marketing is within us. Like community building is within us. I always say community building is a way of being, and having the ability for others to not feel alone and creating spaces where people feel seen and heard. That's what I'm all about. And creating spaces where we elevate others, where we mention others when they're not in the room. So this Facebook memory, I know you guys are all dying to know, like, Liz, we're almost 4 minutes into this podcast episode and you haven't actually told us about the Facebook memory. So let's get into it. So I was sitting on my couch the other day, and, sometimes the Facebook memories, you have to go click on them, and sometimes they come up unprompted, but I love to look at them on the days that I remember. And this Facebook memory was just a post. It was over a decade ago when I was coaching field hockey, which was such a magical time in my life. And I know some of my former players will probably listen to this episode, especially when they see the title. And that was such a magical time in my life. And we were very good. I was coach of the year my first year taking over this program, and I was all in. This was pre-business Liz. This was pre-kid Liz. I mean, coaching was everything. And if you guys know me, you know when I'm into something, I go all in. So this Facebook memory was, for the first time in 5 years, we didn't qualify for regionals. It's time for me to sign up for some coaching clinics and get to work. And what I saw in that post was my self-responsibility and self-accountability and my desire to get better. And that is still who I am today. Like, I still have this obsession's not like the healthiest word to use. I wouldn't say that. But this intuition, something that is always guiding me to be the best version of myself. And 2023 has been one of my best years yet when it comes to myself. I have taken massive amounts of self-responsibility and self-accountability for my life and for my happiness. And I've really allowed myself to dive into personal development in a way that is helping me become happier. And I've always been a very happy person, but as I talked about in my health journey, specifically what I would call like my bottom of some sort was, in January. And I knew it was health related because I do consider myself to be extremely emotionally intelligent and, mentally healthy. But I was like just having a lot of random sadness. I was not feeling good physically or mentally. And I just decided, nobody can change that except for me. And I took all that into my own hands and I got the functional medicine doctor. We have another episode all about that journey. But 2023 has been so good for my soul and for my way of being and for the self-development. But with that comes this sense of loneliness, of feeling like I don't fit in, because while everybody else is watching Netflix and scrolling on social media, I'm reading self-development books, and, my vacations are my work trips. And, it gets to feel sometimes like I'm only seen and heard and understood when I'm in rooms with other people like me. And that part has not been easy. And this post just reminded me that this is who I've always been. And I didn't just wake up some morning and become some weirdo who's obsessed with getting better and who's obsessed with being my best in the healthiest way possible. I need to choose another word besides obsessed, but again, I'm just rolling with it. And it just reminded me like how human and how this is who Elizabeth Henson is and has always been, of like just taking a wild amount of self-accountability and responsibility. And I think back to my worst years, it's when I'm not doing that. It's when I'm not leaning in to who I truly am, which is somebody who just wants to be the best version of myself and wants to make those around me feel seen and heard and better and like they're accepted no matter what their life is. And I know I've had podcast episodes about, friendships that become difficult because I'm too ambitious and I talk about business too much. And I really tried to think about times in my life where this part of me, has been difficult or made me feel isolated. And I was exploring my past. And you guys, if you've really been listening to the podcast for a long time, you've gone back to like episode 1. I've been actually trying to convince myself to go back and listen to episode 1. It's probably so cringy for me now, or maybe it's great. I don't know. But I played field hockey for Old Dominion University, which if you're old like me and you know anything about field hockey, in the year 2000, Old Dominion was freaking awesome, right? Like I was a freshman in the year 2000 and we won a national championship, Division I. Like we were the program. So I was playing field hockey for the best, team in the nation. And I sat the bench. I've talked about this before. I sat the bench, but I wouldn't change it for the world because I got to wear the jersey, and it helped me become who I am now. And I still apply all of that in my life. Like when I actually did my video to apply to be a James Wedmore coach, I used that analogy of, it's not about being the best on the team. It's about wearing the jersey. And I was so proud, and I'm still so proud that, I got to wear that Old Dominion jersey. And now I'm so proud to wear the James Wedmore jersey, right? And be a coach on his team. And I played there for 4 years, and I redshirted my freshman year, and I played for 4 years, and I had one more year of eligibility. And this is a story that I don't share as often because it's just like, it takes a little bit of explaining and it's just not convenient. Like when I'm in a room and I'm having conversations, it's kind of hard to explain. If you're an athlete, you're going to get it. I'm like getting emotional thinking about this because there's something so magical about being an athlete, and it's such a short time in our life. And I knew that. And I knew after college field hockey, there wasn't going to be anything left for me. They didn't have adult leagues at the time. I was not good enough to go on and play nationals or anything crazy like that, or be on the Olympic team like my teammates. I mean, I just wanted to play. And I loved being at ODU so much, but there was part of me that knew it was now or never. And my best friend who played for Appalachian State from high school had been trying to convince me. We had been joking and laughing this entire 4-year field hockey career about me taking my 5th year of eligibility at Appalachian State University. And, they were not nearly as strong of a program. They were Division I, but, they didn't win many games. They didn't have the challenging schedule that we had at Old Dominion, but I knew I would play. And I knew at ODU that, I was one great freshman away from just continuing to stay on the bench. And I didn't know how to get myself out of it. I didn't have the tools then that I have now. I didn't have the emotional intelligence, and I probably honestly just physically wasn't capable. I mean, no matter how much we tell our kids that they can be anything they want to be, not every kid is going to go to the NFL. And I was only as fast as I could get. I worked really, really hard. I was also a normal college student. Looking back, yes, I could have gone in extra to watch more film. I could have gone in extra to practice more. But we were already on that field 4 to 6 hours a day. So I just wanted to play. I wanted a guaranteed pass to say I would be a starter and be on the field. So that's what I did. And my Old Dominion coach at the time had left to coach the national team. And it was kind of, it was like a time of transition anyway. And that was very normal for athletes to take their 4 years and not take their redshirt year. Not necessarily normal to transfer. So I graduated from ODU and I enrolled in not necessarily grad school, but like kind of post-grad classes at Appalachian State so that I could use my final year of eligibility and just know that I gave it my all and that I didn't take anything for granted. And I knew that I would have regretted it if I didn't play that redshirt year somehow, somewhere, whether it was at ODU or App State. I knew I would regret it. So I did it. And I started and I played and it was great. But what I'm going to share with you, I've actually never shared before publicly anywhere. I'm sure I've talked about it in rooms, especially, back in the day. But it's so different reflecting on this stuff 20 years later. And there was a game that we played where there was just the field was silent. Nobody was talking to each other. And if you're an athlete that plays a team sport, that's a bad sign, right? Like, it doesn't matter if you're winning or losing, but when that magic is there, that fire, and you're working together, that's really powerful. And you almost don't care if you're winning or losing when you're all playing together and you can just feel that it's clicking and that you're doing your best and that you're in it together. In this particular game, we had traveled a long way and mentally, just like the team was not present. And I was frustrated. And, there was a lot of frustrating moments coming from the elite program that I did. And I didn't care about the skill. This was not about the skill level of the players beside me. it was like the lack of ambition, right? Like the not caring, the not wanting to go to practice, the nonchalant, like running to go get the ball when it goes out of bounds. Like just, picture kind of like lethargy or apathy, or I don't know the fancy words to use, but there was definitely frustrating moments because I came from this environment where like, it was very structured and rigid, and, we worked hard together. So this game, trying to stay on track here. So this game, it just was like nobody cared. The field was silent. If you're an athlete, you know what that's like when you're just off. And I kind of lost it. And I don't know what I said. I said some kind of motivational speech of some kind, but I'm sure it was in the form of like, I blacked out. I don't remember what I said. But I know that the assistant coach came up to me and he said, "I'm so glad that you said that and that you spoke up." And it was like I kind of had said what a lot of people had been thinking. But I would say there was like a few people that were like, "Yes, Liz, yes, thank you." And then there was quite a few that, felt like, yeah, I yelled at them or it didn't go as smoothly as, whatever I wanted. So anyways, we went out and played and I felt like I left it all out there. I had no regrets. But then later that night in the hotel, the team captain comes up to me and knocks on the door and gets me out of my hotel room. And she's like, "I just want you to know that we are not ODU and that is not acceptable." Whatever, kind of referring to what I did. Basically, I spoke out of turn and, it wasn't welcome there and that they didn't want to be ODU. And I think, I don't know, I don't remember this all super clearly. I think I looked at her and I said, "So you don't want to win?" And again, it wasn't about winning or losing for me. It was about caring. It was about putting it all out there, like giving it our all and playing together and supporting each other. And then it's like, okay, now you've got the separation where it's like half of the team is like behind her with their arms crossed and I'm shunned, right? And then you've got a few other players that are like, thank God somebody spoke up. Like, we're ready to work hard. We're here for it. And I don't know why, like this story was like replaying in my mind because it's been a really long time. But, that was one example in my life of not being liked because of my ambition, because of my self-responsibility and self-accountability, and my desire to win together, like as a team. And by the end of the season, we figured it out, and that team captain and I scored quite a few goals together, especially in our last game. We scored 3 or 4 goals together in our last game. So it all worked out. It all had a happy ending. But that's just one of those times in my life where, people are turning their back because of my desire to win and because of my ambition. And I can see a lot of this more clearly as a grown up. And, I don't take any of it personally, but I do think it explains why there are times in my life where I retreat from my ambition because it's easier. It's easier to sit back and to be liked and to follow the crowd and to be the people pleaser and to keep everybody else happy. This past year, focusing on myself and leaning in to this inner knowing of what I'm here to do is not easy. It feels good and it feels like I'm on the right path. But there are times where it also just is not easy. And it's like I can hear those voices in my head of like, we don't want to be like you or we don't want that outcome. Whatever those stories are, and like people who I thought were my best friends who are no longer in my life. And a big example of this, is when I left the wedding industry and I thought I had made friends for life in the wedding industry. I mean, you're in this together. You're talking about weddings all the time. right? These were my friends. These were the people I saw at work, outside of work. And when I slowly started retiring from the wedding industry, like I'm not invited to the parties anymore. Now I get it. A lot of these parties are for people in the wedding industry. But when you have a camera in your hand, you're invited everywhere. I mean, everywhere. And all of a sudden, now that the camera's not in my hand, it's like, I'm not invited anywhere. Marketing just isn't as sexy as photography, I guess. Right? And some of that is just like absolutely normal human behavior where you don't see someone, they're not top of mind anymore. I am definitely not trying to make a statement that people don't like me or they're out to get me because, I left the wedding industry. But there were people who verbalized that I talk about, work too much, I'm too ambitious. And I'm finally just accepted that talking about business and self-development is my love language. And I am who I am. So I will continue to do so here on the podcast and to whomever will listen. And on a call last night with James and all of the other coaches, he had a moment, where he said, I'm really sorry we're going on, that I'm going so deep into this, but I just really geek out over this stuff. I just love talking about this stuff. That's what he said. I love talking about this stuff. And it's like this overwhelming sense of like, these are my people, like came over me. And I get that feeling a lot when I'm surrounded by the other coaches and the other people that think like I do and obsess over this and want to learn and want to understand human behavior and want to understand how we can be the best version of ourselves or just here for what we're meant to do. This isn't about like getting it right. This isn't about like good or bad moral behavior. This is about like following your reason that you're here, your dharma, right? That's all it's about. And if for you, that is being a teacher or a photographer or a coach or online marketing or an artist or just having a normal 9-to-5 job, I don't care. I am not one to be like, everyone should be an entrepreneur, but I do want everyone to be happy. And I do want everybody to strive to be the best version of themselves. And I'm so glad, that I've learned what I've learned and that I am who I am, even though it's hard and lonely sometimes. So I don't know why I felt called to share all that. I told you I was just on the treadmill. I was in the zone and all these memories were flooding back to me. And I just wanted to share them with you and ask you the question, have you ever been disliked because you wanted to win, because you wanted to be better, and because you wanted that for everyone else around you? But, maybe at 20 years old, I guess I was 21 at the time, maybe I wasn't, as skilled as I am now at expressing that. I'm sure I had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder. I take credit for that. But at the end of the day, that's all I wanted was for us to be our best. And I didn't care about winning or losing. I just wanted us to be our best. And that's still who I am today. So thank you, Facebook, for reminding me that I actually haven't changed as much as I think I have. And this is always who I've been. And I just continue to become a better and better version of that person that wants to be the best and wants to serve my purpose on this planet. So if I had to really think about this reflection and my biggest takeaways and hopefully have this podcast serve a little bit of a purpose, I would say that we can identify patterns in our life and common themes. And there's been this recurring theme, since around that time in my life, this time of athletics, that my desire to be great annoyed other people, or people disliked me because I'm too ambitious, because I wanted to win, I mean, even in high school, I was always the first one at practice and the last one to leave. So there's common themes of, this work ethic when I really get into something. And then there's common themes of how it negatively impacts other people, right? Or just their annoyance by my ambition. And when I really look back at the times that I have struggled, it's because in some way I was making myself small and I was shrinking my ambition to fit in or to make people happy, right? Like my people pleasing coming out of my ambition is not convenient. It's not convenient for the family. It's not convenient for my friendships. It's not convenient for whatever it is that I'm doing, right? Traveling for work is an inconvenience. And every time that I have really struggled, and, we all have ups and downs in our lives. But now, after having this reflection, after doing the work that I've been doing, I see the pattern that the times that I struggle and I'm not thriving, it's because I am playing small for the sake of others. And I think that's what 2023 has really taught me not to do, is to let other people's reactions be their reactions and continue to play big and to chase my ambition, because that's when I'm truly happy. That's when I'm truly doing what I love to do. And that's been a common theme in my life, whether it was art or field hockey or coaching field hockey to photography. It's always been a common theme. And it's not perfectionism, because if you guys know me, I am not afraid of a public typo. I am not afraid of messing up. I'm like, mistakes, bring them on. But I definitely have people-pleasing tendencies where I care deeply that I'm liked. And that has held me back. So it's so freeing to see these patterns and to see when I've thrived, what I was doing differently, and then when I've struggled, what I was doing differently. And that kind of knowledge and self-awareness is power. So if you take anything from this episode, think about the recurring themes in your life. Think back to a time where somebody verbalized something to you that they didn't like. And how can you use that as information and fuel to say, what was I really doing here? What were they really trying to tell me? Is this a common theme? And how am I reacting to this common theme? It's just an opportunity. It's just an opportunity for us to reflect and see these patterns and to use them as a chance for that awareness. So I hope that was helpful in this episode. I'm like, this is one of those that I'm definitely hesitating to push out live for some reason. It feels very vulnerable and exposed, but it's true. And I just kept thinking about these recurring themes, where I was just having tunnel vision on my dreams and my goals and facing rejection in the process, whatever that looks like in so many different circumstances. And when I listen to those voices, a year ago, I was going to write a book about how I'm a prisoner to my own ambition. I have a lot of books in my mind that I want to write one day, but I had come up with this title and everything of I'm a prisoner to my own ambition. And I was going to write about this entire topic, and that's what was holding me back, is I was allowing myself to be a prisoner to my ambition. I was allowing it to keep me small. So don't let anything keep you small. When you know you're on the right path and you know you're meant to do something good and make this world a better place, don't let anything hold you back. Okay. Thank you guys so much for listening. Please, if you love this episode, leave us a review on iTunes or wherever. It makes our day so much to know that you are listening. Share it with a friend. And if you are local here to Hampton Roads and this episode made you want some connection to talk about business, if your love language is talking about dreams and goals and entrepreneurship or creativity, we are starting back up our local community here in Hampton Roads. And I will put that link in the show notes of where you can sign up for more information. But we will be having a meetup next month. So I'm really excited to get back in a room with some of my favorite people here in Hampton Roads. It's been too long, and my circle has gotten so incredibly small that I'm willing to start putting myself out there again. So excited to see everyone in November, and we'll put those links in the show notes for you. We'll also link where you can sign up for information on our bigger in-person event happening in 2024, where some of my group coaching students will be flying out here for an event, and you guys will be all invited as well. So that will all be in the show notes at elizabethhenson.co/E132. This is episode 132. Thank you guys so much for being here. I'll see you next week.